Madison woke up to the sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand. The irritating noise cut through the thick morning air in her apartment. She reached over, turned off the alarm, and glanced to her side. Ethan was still asleep, his face buried in the pillow, his breathing heavy, the same position, every night. No movement, no spontaneity. That was their marriage now. A repetitive cycle, void of emotion, void of surprises. She got up slowly and walked to the bathroom, catching her reflection in the mirror. At 38, the early signs of age were starting to appear around her eyes, but her skin was still smooth. Her body still held the curves she carefully maintained. She sighed deeply. She was tired of waking up every day and feeling like nothing ever changed. As she sat down for breakfast, a message popped up on her phone from Claire, her longtime friend. "Maddie, I just started yoga with this amazing instructor. You have to try it. It'll be so good for you. And he's hot, haha." She smirked but didn't reply right away. Yoga had never really been on her radar. It wasn't the kind of exercise she was drawn to. But the thought of trying something new, something outside of work, home, and Ethan, was tempting. A few hours later, she found herself signing up for a trial class. That night, dinner with Ethan was silent. The news played in the background, filling the void between them. Neither of them attempted to break the ice. No effort. When she finished eating, she washed the dishes mechanically and went upstairs. She lay in bed beside Ethan, waiting for sleep to come. He never even reached for her. The next morning, she slipped into a pair of comfortable leggings, a light tank top, and tied her hair back. The yoga studio was only a short drive away. The space was open, airy, with large windows letting in the morning sun. The faint scent of incense lingered in the air. Madison glanced around, adjusting to the new environment. And then he walked in. Ryan, the instructor. Tall, lean, toned, slightly tousled brown hair, deep hazel eyes, and a relaxed but intense demeanor. He wore a fitted t-shirt that hugged his muscular arms and a pair of loose athletic pants. His presence was magnetic. "You're new here," he said, approaching her with a casual smile. "Yeah, I'm Madison," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Welcome, Madison. Hope you enjoy the class. Yoga is more than just movement. It's about reconnecting with your body and mind." His gaze lingered on hers just a second longer than necessary before he stepped back to start the session. His voice was calming, almost hypnotic. As he moved around the room, adjusting postures and correcting forms, she felt herself falling into the rhythm of the class. At one point, he stopped next to her. "Breathe deeply. Relax your shoulders," he murmured, his fingers gently grazing her back to adjust her posture. The touch was subtle, but it sent a jolt through her body. She held her breath for a second, a shiver running up her spine. By the time class ended, she felt both lighter and unsettled. Sitting in her car before heading home, she stared at her hands. They were trembling. Maybe from the workout. Maybe not. When she walked through the front door, Ethan was on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Where were you?" he asked, not even looking up. "I went to a yoga class," she said, kicking off her sneakers. "Yoga? Since when are you into that?" He scoffed, typing something on his screen. She didn't answer. Just climbed the stairs and went straight to the shower. The hot water loosened her muscles, but her mind was trapped in that studio. In Ryan's voice. In the way his touch lingered just long enough to make her question if it was all in her head. Days passed, and she kept going back to class. Ryan started recognizing her, greeting her with a warm, more personal smile each time. The way he adjusted her posture became more fluid, the lingering eye contact harder to ignore. She knew exactly what was happening. The unspoken game between them was becoming impossible to deny. Tension built gradually. Small moments that seemed insignificant to others but carried weight for her. After one session, as she rolled up her mat, Ryan stepped closer than necessary. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice softer this time. She swallowed hard. His body heat was close, too close. "Better. A lot better," she admitted, unsure if she was still talking about yoga. He tilted his head slightly, a knowing smile forming on his lips. "That's good." That night, Madison tossed and turned in bed. Ethan slept soundly beside her, completely unaware of what was unraveling inside her. Their marriage had been over for a long time, she realized that now. But for the first time, she was actually allowing herself to feel it. Ryan was there. Every session. Every touch. Every lingering glance. The line between professional and personal was getting thinner by the day. She knew she was on the edge of something. And for the first time in years, she wasn't sure she wanted to stop herself from crossing it. Yoga classes became the highlight of Madison's week. She started taking extra care of herself, choosing better outfits, applying light makeup before leaving the house. The excuse was that she wanted to feel good, but deep down, she knew the truth. She wanted Ryan to notice her. The dynamic between them evolved from discreet glances to longer conversation. His adjustments during practice became more deliberate, his touch lingering just a second longer. The boundary between student and instructor was dissolving. One evening, after most of the students had left, Ryan approached her. "Have you been practicing on your own? You're improving really fast," he said, his eyes locked onto hers. "I've been trying," Madison answered, feeling her cheeks flush. "If you'd like, I can help with private sessions. We could focus more on flexibility and breath work." She hesitated. They both knew this wasn't just about yoga. Still, she agreed. The first session was at the studio after hours. The space was dimly lit, soft music filling the quiet room. Ryan guided her through each movement, his hands firm but gentle as he corrected her posture. The tension between them was undeniable. As he moved closer to help her hold a position, their faces hovered inches apart. She was the one who gave in first. The kiss was slow at first, hesitant, but quickly turned into something deeper. No words followed, just a silence thick with meaning. Their affair began that night. Private lessons turned into secret meetings. The suppressed desire exploded into something neither of them could control. Soon, the encounters moved beyond the studio, to a quiet cafe, a secluded park in the middle of the afternoon, and eventually, a hotel room. Each time, the line between guilt and pleasure blurred further. Madison justified it to herself. She was finally feeling alive again, something she hadn't felt in years. But the deeper she fell, the harder it became to hide. Ethan started noticing small changes. The late nights, the long showers when she got home, the constant distractions. "You've been acting different, Maddie," he mentioned one evening over dinner. She froze for half a second but forced a smile. "Different how?" "I don't know. You just seem like your mind is always somewhere else." She let out a small laugh, trying to play it off. "I think I'm just tired from work." Ethan nodded, but he didn't look convinced. The weight of the secret started to wear on her. No matter how much she tried to suppress it, guilt began creeping into quiet moments. Ethan wasn't a bad man. He didn't deserve this. But at the same time, stopping seemed impossible. Ryan, however, didn't seem worried at all. He was in the moment. No expectations, no demands. And that began to bother Madison. What was this to him? Just something casual? A passing thrill? And what was it to her? On a particularly hot afternoon, after another secret meeting, she watched Ryan as he got dressed. He looked at ease, unbothered. "What does this mean to you?" she asked, her voice unsteady. He raised an eyebrow, finishing the last button on his shirt. "It means we're enjoying ourselves, that we have something that makes us feel good." He stepped closer, tilting her chin up with his fingers. "You're overthinking." But she knew it wasn't just fun for her. Something inside her wanted more, a reason, a justification for what she was doing. And that vulnerability scared her more than she wanted to admit. Their affair intensified, but so did the risk. Ethan started paying more attention. He asked more questions. Until one day, he found something he shouldn't have. A message. Madison's phone was unlocked on the kitchen counter when Ethan passed by and saw the notification light up. It was from Ryan. Nothing overly explicit, but too direct to be just a conversation between a yoga instructor and his student. Ethan's heart pounded. He didn't say anything right away. But doubt had been planted. And once a secret is uncovered, there's no burying it again. What started as a silent game was now on the verge of a revelation that would change everything. The tension in the air was suffocating. Madison knew something was off. Ethan had been watching her more closely, his questions were more frequent, and the way he looked at her had changed. He was seeing her differently now. And then, over the weekend, everything fell apart. Ethan had left early that morning without saying where he was going. Madison took the chance to relax, trying to ignore the growing anxiety in her chest. Then, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. A message from Ryan. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" She grabbed the phone quickly, her heart pounding. But before she could respond, the front door swung open. Ethan stood in the entryway, staring at her. His expression sent a chill down her spine. "Who are you talking to?" His voice was tense. Madison tried to lock the phone screen, but it was too late. Ethan stepped forward, snatching the phone from her hands and looking at the screen. A suffocating silence filled the room for a second, then he laughed. A dry, bitter laugh. "Ryan, huh? Your yoga instructor?" He lifted his eyes to hers, and Madison felt her stomach twist. "How long has this been going on?" She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Ethan tossed the phone onto the couch and ran a hand through his hair, his breathing heavy. "You've been lying to me this whole time." His voice was quiet, but full of rage. "I knew something was wrong, but I kept telling myself it was just in my head. I thought maybe it was just time wearing us down, that we could fix things." He shook his head. "But no. You made your choice." "Ethan," Madison stepped forward, but he backed away, his eyes filled with anger and betrayal. "No. Don't touch me." He pointed toward the door. "I want you out. Now." She froze. "Ethan, please, we need to talk. We're done. I don't want to hear anything else." His voice was cold, final. Madison felt her world collapse. She slowly climbed the stairs, grabbed a suitcase, and began stuffing it with clothes. Her heart pounded. She had never imagined it would end like this. She had never imagined she would be caught like this. When she came back downstairs, Ethan didn't even look at her. He sat on the couch, staring at the floor. Madison tried to say something, anything, but she knew it was pointless. She walked out the door, the cold night air hitting her face like a slap. She got in her car and drove aimlessly. The only place that came to mind was the yoga studio. She needed to see Ryan. She needed some kind of comfort. When she arrived, she found him sitting at the front desk, scrolling through his phone. "I need your help," Madison blurted out as she rushed inside. Ryan looked up, surprised. "What happened?" "Ethan found out. He kicked me out. I don't know what to do." Ryan let out a slow breath and stood up, rubbing the back of his neck. He didn't look shocked. In fact, he looked uncomfortable. "Maddie, I'm really sorry. But you had to know this could happen." She frowned. "I need somewhere to stay. Just for a little while." Ryan's eyes shifted away, and he crossed his arms. "I don't think that's a good idea. We never really talked about what this was, did we?" He hesitated. "I like you, I really do. But I wasn't planning on something serious." It felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her. "So that's it? It was just fun for you?" Her voice shook. Ryan exhaled. "It wasn't just fun. But it wasn't a commitment either. I never promised you anything, Maddie." Anger and heartbreak clashed inside her. Her marriage was over. Her lover didn't want her. She had nowhere to go. Madison turned and walked out of the studio without another word, feeling completely hollow. The next few days were a blur. She stayed with Lena for a while, but she quickly realized her life would never be the same again. The divorce was swift and brutal. Ethan refused to talk. She lost the comfort of their home, the stability she had taken for granted. And then came the judgment. Friends pulled away. Whispers followed her everywhere. Ryan? He moved on like nothing had happened. Kept teaching his classes, kept being the charming man he always was. For him, nothing changed. For Madison, everything fell apart. Months passed. Loneliness became a constant shadow. She tried to distract herself, to rebuild her life, but the emptiness never left. Then, the final blow came. Ethan had moved on quickly. News of him dating someone new spread fast. And when Madison heard it, it felt like a punch to the stomach. She had no home of her own. No stability. No relationship. No Ryan. She was completely alone. Lena tried to be there for her, but even her patience ran thin. One night, Madison returned to the tiny apartment she had rented. She stood in front of the mirror. The woman looking back at her wasn't the same. The glow in her eyes was gone. What remained was regret, and the weight of choices that could never be undone. And that was how she learned, the hard way. Some decisions don't have a way back. The price was high, and she paid it to the last cent.